So the project, you have to create a 5-page or more website of on a topic of your choosing. It has to be um, able to be launched in various browsers. So mentioned here is Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Android. So because it also has to be compatible with an Android phone, that means that we have to get our I don't know if we've done media queries yet, but we have to be able to have adaptable layout. I think that's one of the coming up labs. So we'll certainly cover that before this project is due. Um, it is a project of your own choice, and there are a number of uh, milestones, or we could call them tasks if you like. Um, Now, you may be used to me as your teacher being quite flexible on delivery dates, but I do have to sort of stick with this one because it's been published this way for all of the classes. So we're actually sticking quite hard to the delivery dates. You can hand in your entire website on the final due date, which is the 3rd of April, and you'll get 60 points just for that. But each of the milestone delivery dates have a fixed sort of due date on them. So you really have to get onto it. Now, you do have a delivery that's due. Wow, look at that. That's like due in 2 days. It's a non-technical delivery. What I mean by that is you don't have to do a lot of coding or anything. All you need to do is choose your topic. So it's and sort of put something up there about that, little note about it. This is a thing that I'm going to do my website on. And likewise, you'll see delivery 2 is not very technical either. Delivery 2, you're going to create a wireframe. I hope that you're a little bit familiar with that. The idea of wireframe is you could Google it if you like, but I'm not going to do a big lesson on wireframe. The idea is to show just as abstractly as possible. When I say abstractly, so we're reducing the information to the very minimum, what a page would look like. So what a page would look like without the actual text and video and pictures in it, basically showing where would those pictures, where would that text go. And so we divide the page up into different elements in the page and show how they are relative to each other. And so that you can use all kinds of drawing tools. You could probably just do a Google on wireframe and find a website somewhere that will knock one up for you very quickly. Or you could use Visio to create one. And so that's by the 13th of March, which is only 10 days from now, you need to start delivering some HTML. So you're going to have your 5 pages and you're going to create some HTML on that. Now, you do need to do individual work on this. And then you'll see there the 20th of March, you're going to do some CSS. And the CSS is external for this project, meaning that you have to have a separate CSS file. And then you're going to do some other CSS for the mobiles. So we're going to have the adaptive layout. I haven't shown you how to do that yet, but I will between now and then. And then lastly, you're going to do the contract form and final submission. Now, the contact form is related to the work that we're doing now, today. So that is your project. I do have a chat. Well, where's that? Chat, where are you? I got the chat, but I can't actually see it. Oh, there it is. Give a suggestion as editors for these mock-ups, please. Suggestion for editors? I don't know. I mean, your editor is Word, I suppose. But mock-ups you could use, as I said, I just mentioned Visual Studio. Sorry, not Visual Studio, Visio. Draw.io. If you don't have any, so what I'm talking about there, the mock-ups you're referring to, I suppose, is a wireframe. Wireframe is a drawing, and so you'd want to use a drawing tool. There's lots of little drawing tools that you could use. There's some suggestions. I'm sure you can come up with some others. Okay, so that is your project. That's one point. The other point that's probably worth mentioning for today, before we jump into looking at the actual code for today, is this fact that we have a test coming. Now, test is 1 week from Thursday. So today's the 2nd. And so yeah, Thursday will be the 4th, and you need to be ready for a test on that day during the class time. Be in our room. You'll have to come to the college and do it. Well, I haven't seen the
What will
test
the
yet.
test be about?
Well, I imagine it'll be on the cover the things that you should learn by doing the labs up till now. It'll be some HTML and CSS that you'll have to write. Now, the test hasn't been written, so I can't say exactly what's on the test. Um, but what I know is that the note was the assumption is that students will have completed up until the end of Lab 8. So you could assume that it could include anything that we've learned up until Lab 8. Today is Lab 8, so it could be anything up until that. So that's what you should be looking forward to. Okay. Uh, so that's where we are with that. Good
Mr.
question. Yes.
About the project, can we use like some code we didn't learn?
Well, yeah. Um, but
It's okay.
don't go copying code out of somebody else's website. So I mean, I hope the question wasn't that, okay, so yeah, I'm going to go and do Google site, or I'm going to go and do WordPress, or something like that, and make a website with a whole lot of code in it, which I don't know what it is. I won't look at that very favorably. All right. You know what I mean? So the idea in this course is that you write code, HTML, in a using an editor like Notepad or Visual Studio Code. And when I spoke to other teachers in the course and told them that I gave you guys Visual Studio Code, they didn't like that. They said, "Oh, that's giving too much help." So if Visual Studio Code is giving too much hope, you can imagine that something like WordPress, that's not going to be looked on very favorably. So you know what I mean. Those things, PageMaker or whatever. As a PageMaker, I can't remember the names of those other things, but because I don't use them. But there are software that will just create a web page for you. Sort of, all you do is sort of click a few buttons. You're not going to get marks for that. Did I answer that okay? You should have a website that has HTML, which you have written, and has CSS, which you have written. It shouldn't have a whole lot of CSS in it that you don't know what it is. I mean, if you put CSS that you haven't learned in class, that's fine. You might want put a little comment in it saying, this is what the CSS does. If you do that, I'll give you the marks. Yeah, absolutely. If I see strange CSS in there that we didn't talk about in class, then you just put a little note in. I'm using this CSS because it does this and I need it for this. But if it's just sort of strange stuff, it's obvious that you don't understand what it is, I'm not going to like that. Does that make sense? All right, I'm belaboring the point now,
Yes, yes, Mr.
so I'll get off of that now. All right, so we have this nice little exercise here, which is, when I say here, where do I mean? Here, Starve Coffee. We have this nice little exercise here, Star Coffee, which you're creating this one page. This is Lab 8. It's one page. It's not so it's one page, but there's a lot going on, and I'm sorry about that. There is a lot going on. So what you got going on here is you got a logo here, which is used twice. Okay, and I hope that you can see that the way that that is being implemented there is we have basically divided up into three different columns, and we put the logo in there twice, and we floated one to the left and we floated one to the right. So we've got a width of our page, which we've divided up into percents, I guess, or else into pics. We'll have a look at the code in a second. And we've done that. Then we've got so actually this logo seems to be in the same column as this order now stuff. So that's all in one column to the left. And so that part of the document is there. And then the rest of the document sort of fills in to the left on it. We've done that before, right? In the exercises that you've done in the labs. So with all the, remember the product list, we got all those nice pictures of mobile phones and stuff like that. And we slotted them in one beside each other and we did the grid clear and all that. Again, we're doing it. So we're doing that. So we got a little bit of laying out that we have to do with our floating left. Got a floating right there too. We've got some columns, so we need some divs for that. And then we've got this thing that takes up the major part of the web page, which is a form. And you would have been introduced to forms very briefly in CP1000 course, which you all should have done. And so you're getting to have a look at them again. Now, in this form, we actually have a web, a site, a PHP document, which is stored on a server somewhere. So you may not have used PHP before, but basically what PHP allows you to do is to program between pages in a website and carry data between them, and also to store that data into SQL databases and stuff like that. So you don't have to write any PHP. That's not part of this course. So you can sort of take a breath there. That's lucky. The PHP is hidden to you. You don't even have to worry about it. The only thing is that you actually have to launch it. And so you do need to have, for the form, you need to have a an action on that. So let's have a look at how that's happening. Well, let's talk a little bit more before that. Okay, so you can see that we've got various types of input in our form. So at the top here, we've got a drop-down box. And so we do that with a select, and we'll look at the select statement in a minute. We've got radio buttons here. So radio buttons, how they work is one or the other. That's sort of binary in this case. We could have multiples of them. But basically, with the radio button, you have to choose one, and you only get to choose one. So here we've got two radio buttons, and one of them is going to be on, and one of them is not. That's different than the checkbox, which is the next type of input that we've got there. With the checkbox, what we can do is we can have one or more or none. Okay, so it's different than the radio box because the checkbox, we can use it for multiples or we can use it for none. Then we've got our text input, and in our text input, we can just type something. Now, you saw it come up there, something about a email address, because we actually have a special kind of input, which is email input. And notice here in this input field here that we actually have a date format coming up, because that actual input field is a type date. Date's really cool because you can pick a date, and look at that, a calendar comes up so that you can even choose. That's all built into our HTML working for us. Isn't that awesome? All right, so when it's on the server, that's how that's doing. All right, so what else we got? We got a comment field, which is a text area. So we got text, we got email, we got date, and we got text area, we got checkbox, and we got radio. At the bottom, we've got a submit type button, which we've given it a name of order now. For almost all of our fields, we got some labels that go with them. Here we got some labels off to the side on the right. Here we got some labels off to the side on the left. We've got a whole column here where we've got some other fields. And we're using different headings. So this is just a heading. You can see that's text. So we could edit that if we were in our editor. But that's a H1 heading, and we have modified the size of that so that it's bigger than your average H1. I think we changed the color as well. And for these are heading 2. You'll see that they're, I shouldn't use the word 2 there. I meant T00, TOO, as opposed to TWO. There's this is H3, heading 3. That's the website that you need to build. Let's go and have a look at it. And I'm sure you're sort of interested in that. Are we recording this? Yeah. All right. So let's have a look at that. Yeah. So in our body, we have divided it up to a main. Okay. And in the main, we've actually specified the size of this of this document. And so if we look up here, when we style the main, where are you, main? So we've given the width of the document as 900 pix, and background is white, etc. So that's, we've got a main. Then we've got we've, we've created a element that we've called header, and we put the header actually is the thing at the top, and that's got our image twice. So we see a image tag here, and then we see the same image tag there, and one of them is put into a element that we've called logo 1, and one of them is put into an element that we've called logo 2, and in between them we've got a h1, and so that is what actually it comes as, where are you? Uh, is that using this one? Yeah, there it is. That is, this is header. Okay, and so here's our logo 1, here's our logo 2, here's our H1. Okay, and then if we look at the CSS that is used to make that happen like that, so together they're okay. So all the logos, they're both of class logo. We made them not 20%. So that's 20% of the 900 pix. So logo gets to be a class because there's two of them. It's 20% of this width. So that would be, I don't know, 150 or something like that. Then logo 1 is floated to the left, logo 2 is floated to the right. Then H1, let's find H1. H1, we do all this coding here, make it a heavy weight, make a big size, put some padding on it, align it to the center, make the width 60%. So what is this width 60%, width 20%, width 90%? Whenever you do a width like that and you do a percent, that means the percent of the element in which this element resides. So for example, for the H1, if we look at our, sorry, I got windows all over my screen, and some of them you can't see because they're uh, Zoom windows, but yeah, they're a little bit annoying. But all right, so if we, what I wanted to go to is have a look at the header. So the header, we've got okay, we actually have, we've set up the width of the logo to a certain 8. Geez, that's interesting. It's not even px, but we actually make it so that it actually is 90% of the space that's available to it for logo. Image is in the logo, and logo is 20% of 900 pix. And so the image is actually going to be 90% of 20% of 900. So that's going to be about 125 pix. And so if we look at it, that's what it actually ends up as, is about 125 pix wide. So using percents is really nice. What this percent means is the width of this particular class is going to be 20% of the width, whatever logo is found inside. And if we look at the main, we'll see that logo is found inside header. And so logo, there's 20% of it there. There's 20% of header there. Together, that's 80%. And so I guess that means that our H1 could be 60%, or maybe we could have a little bit of extra. But I think you'll find that H1 is 60%. And so they add up to 100%. So there's our 900 pix wide. So that's the first bit of that. That gives us our header. Then we got this thing here called aside. So aside, we've just made up this tag. And as long as it is the same top and bottom, the reason why we're doing this is so that we can stick the, so that we can have to the left this sort of column. So this column here to the left. So remember, we've done the header. So now we're down to this point here. We're going to now put the order now and this bit of wording in here. We've got different fonts there, but all of that's going to be in the aside. And so the aside you can see here, there's the text. You can see one beside the other. We've got you can order your favorite coffee, blah blah blah, and that's oh sorry, we've got a heading style too first, and then we've got this. You can order your favorite coffee, and then we've got do you see we've got a span which we're using for the little words that go down the bottom. We've given them an ID of TOS. And if you look up here, we'll see that we've scaled that to give it a nice small size in that particular thing. So that's happening there. That's how we got that column. Now, I say that's how we got that column. That's not quite sort of finished. Let's look at that. The aside. Let's look at the aside CSS. What we've had to do is we've had to float it to the left. We give it 90% of the width of the page, and we put some padding on it. So 90% of the width of the page. What is aside inside? If we look at the sorry, if we look at the yeah, I was on it already, right? Side is inside the thing called main. So main we know is 900 pixels wide. And so a side is going to be 20% of 900, which is like 180 or something like that, I suppose. And so that's how we get this column here, which is must be about 180 pixels wide. 20%, really. All right. So then the next, so that's got us to the point where we have finished the top. That was all in header, and then the aside that is, yeah, is in an element called the aside. So that's here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's got us down to here. Then the rest of it is going to be the form. And the form is put into an element that in this case is called section. You wouldn't have to call it section, but it's called section here so that we can sort of know what's going on, right? So section, we put the form inside section. And that's important because, well, it's important to know that because if you look at our so we've styled all of this stuff. We got the top, we've got the side, and the rest is this. The rest is the form. And so the rest is called section. And if we look at section here, you'll see that we've made the width at 70% and we floated it to the left. And so how that happens in our web page is that, so this one was floated to the left, that was our aside. Section is going to be floated to the left right beside it. And together they make up less than 100%. And so that sort of works for us. And yeah, so that's the next bit is about the form. So how does a form work? A form has a bunch of inputs and then it can have an action. This form does have an action. I mean, and the action you'll see refers to a PHP file, which is kept on the SIT server. Now that file is there and the action has a method called post. That's all you need to know for that. And I'm sure that you sort of can see that from this video, what you need to do there. What this means is that when the person hits the submit button, which is at the end of the form in this case, when the person hits that submit button, what will happen then is that whatever we've said in action will be um, executed. Now, when I say executed, that's because PHP is a programming language. It only works if you have a PHP server, and we do. So in other words, we have the software that will work with PHP on that server. Now, the server doesn't have to be a computer which is isolated from you. You could put the server on your laptop or home computer. If you want to do that, you could do that and practice that and play with your websites. If you want to do that, you can. I've done that with my laptop. So for example, a lot of people do. You can download a server depending on what your operating system is. I use Windows, so the server that I use is WAMP. So I mean, if you want to be running PHP real websites that work with forms and work with SQL database, download the WAMP server. And you should also download MySQL. Uh, then if you're using Apple, the WAMP server is not compatible with that, and so you need to use your own an Apple server, which is called MAMP, M-A-M-P. So you can download those and you can run this yourself, or you can use our SIT server because we have on there we have PHP processing. Now there's two different types of methods that are available to us using um, using a PHP server. We have a post method and we have a get method. We'll use post. The difference between the post and the get has to do with security mainly. But we're not going to worry about it too much, right? So the get one, one of them, and I think it's the get one, will actually leave in the what do you call this thing at the top of your screen, where you see the URL. It'll leave information about the server there. That's the get. The post doesn't, and so the get is less secure. Um, yeah, so we use post. Um, please make a note of that. And it actually is given to you in the Lab 8 instructions. Okay, so now let's get into the form. So the form starts here, and we have a form tag with an action in the tag, and the form ends here. We've got a bunch of divs inside the form so that we can style them basically. And so we've got a class called form input, and you'll see that we're using that form input basic class basically for all of the different components of this form so that we can style them all the same. So you're using a class called form input. If you look at the form, these are the different components of the form, and they all have some certain styling the same. So that'll have to do with the colors, etc., and the fonts. All right, so let's have a look and see that then. Okay, so form input, where are you? Um, didn't see it. Section. There we go. So yeah, actually it's just to do with the width. Form input is just taking up 65% of the width. Um, the 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 fonts in that I suppose are set for the entire page, probably in the main. Is it? That's where we set our color of the background, so it must be maybe in section. Where's section? Section. Where are you? Form input section. No, no color there either. Font size in H3, form input. Not sure where we put the color. Tell me if you see it. Not there. Well, that's H1. With background color.
The body.
In the body. So the entire body is colored with that brown. Should have seen that. So the entire thing is there. Yep, very good. So you can see that there. Awesome. All right, so that's the start of our form. We've got our first part of the form is called select. And what the select does is it works with a bunch of options. This gives us the drop down feature in the form. And so each of those has a value. The value is we don't have to do any typing. That is, the user doesn't have to do any typing. All they have to do is select. The value is there. So what's going to happen is that is going to be passed on when we action the form. This data is going to be passed on, whichever one of those. And these are the only things that we can choose. So that's how select works. Select is a drop-down box. The next one is our radio box. Okay, and so you can see that here. The type of input is radio. And so we do set some values there, whole or ground. The labels are to the right. And so that's what we see here, right? So the values, when we press one of these radio buttons and then we submit, then whichever one of these we've chosen, now it's not going to It's not going to send whole bean. It's going to just send whole because the actual value is whole. That's what's going to be sent to the server. All right, then the next one is our checkboxes. There's two checkboxes, and again, they're working with values, right? So when we click on those checkboxes, if they are checked, then those values will be sent to the server. So we can, but the difference between that and it's the same idea as a radio button, except you can have one or both or none of those checked, and it still works. It just won't send anything if you don't have a checkbox ticked. So that's your checkbox. So we do this with types, input type, input type. I got 3 minutes left, so I'm just going to try and get through this here now. The next type of data that is being used in our form here, let's see. There's the type, it's text. It's text. So this time we put the labels over to the left, whereas in the previous ones we had the labels over to the right. So there's our things about labels. The type is text, and this time we are actually, so we're requiring somebody to put some input there, but we're letting them type it in. So they'll type in whatever it is they type, and when they type that in and we click on the submit, then that will be sent to the server. So let's see, let me do, I'm going to take my web. So there's my choose today or whatever. Yeah, choose that. And oh, do I have to type it? I shouldn't have to. Oh, I have to click. There we go. City, Doha, and address. Al Jazeera line, that'll do. And so the next one there, text area, and that is this big thing here where I put the hello. And lastly, we've got the submit, and we changed the value to order now. And submit is this button here. When I press that button, what will happen is that whatever I put here in action will be attempted. Now, if this PHP file is still there and runs, we will see it run at that point. So let's see. So we're now transferred over to the SIT server. I hope you can see that. And all of my inputs have been stored and have been repeated back to me. So that's actually worked. The SIT server is indicating. Now, if I had just pressed the button without doing the inputs, or if I had wrongly coded the form, then that would not have worked. I'm going to run out of time, and I'm sorry about this, but so just have a quick look at that. I hope that works out okay for you. The thing that I haven't mentioned is the clear. You've seen that before in previous lessons. Um, there's some other things about the label widths and stuff like that. Hopefully that will work out for you. The clear, we cleared both sides because there was a left and there was a right, float left, float right. So we cleared those floatings. And hopefully that all sort of works out for you. I'll just let you have a look at that code. And I know we're going to run out of time like in any second. So it's just going to stop in a second.